Okay, got it. Looking forward to what happens in season 3. Okay, sounds good. Shall we start season 5 now then? Alright, got it. So I'll be playing as Guardian Angel Susie in season 5, correct? Great, let's get into the story then. Guardian Angel Susie stood in the midst of the peaceful, quiet main universe, her wings gently fluttering behind her. She glanced around, taking in the tranquil surroundings with a sense of protection and vigilance. Guardian Angel. Susie turned at the sound of her name, her eyes falling on the crew standing nearby. My friends? She paused, her gaze sweeping over the group before a small, somewhat sheepish smile tugged at her lips. I suppose they got distracted along the way. She explained casually, a hint of amusement in her voice, although she seemed slightly embarrassed not having her friends by her side like usual. Guardian Angel. Susie's brow furrowed slightly as a realization hit her, her thoughts suddenly coming to a halt. Wait, my friends. Damn it, I told them to stay at my house. They're still there, she muttered, her expression a mix of annoyance and resignation. She glanced over at Crimson, a slightly sheepish smile forming on her lips. Ugh, I guess I'll have to go get them. Guardian Angel Susie paused, her smile faltering at Crimson's response. She raised an eyebrow slightly, her head tilting to the side as she registered his words. Later? But she began, a hint of irritation in her voice. Before she could continue, however, she cut herself off, letting out a slight huff. Ugh, you're probably right, she grumbled with a small sigh, reluctantly conceding. Guardian Angel Susie watched Crimson and Tacklebean begin making their way towards the Mira HQ, a small frown on her face. She folded her arms across her chest as she called out to them, a hint of annoyance in her voice. Hold on, you're just gonna go on ahead without me? She protested lightly, her eyes flickering between the two. Guardian Angel. Susie's annoyance slightly faded as Crimson apologized, her expression softening just a bit. She sighed lightly, shifting her weight onto one hip. Well, it's fine. Just next time, don't go off without me, alright? She grumbled, a small hint of a smirk pulling at her lips. Guardian Angel. Susie's small smirk widened slightly, satisfied with Crimson's response. She relaxed her stance, her hands resting on her hips. Good. Now let's go meet up with Banana before you two run off anywhere else, she said with a note of teasing in her tone, her wings fluttering faintly behind her. Guardian Angel Susie watched the emotional reunion between Banana and Tacklebean from a short distance away, a small smile spreading across her face as they embraced. She glanced at Crimson, addressing him. "They really missed each other, huh?" she commented with a light chuckle, her tone casual. However, her smile faded as she remembered the topic from earlier, and her voice turned slightly more serious. "Hey, Crimson, there's something I wanted to ask you about." Guardian Angel. Susie leaned her back against a nearby wall, folding her arms across her chest as her expression turned pensive, the image from the flashback flashing into her mind. The flashback from earlier, with the similar colors. "Can you tell me more about that?" she inquired, a slight frown on her face as she met Crimson's gaze. Guardian Angel Susie's frown deepened as Crimson brought up the names of Brown, Alert Bean, Orange, and Screen Bean. A sense of concern crept into her tone, and she pushed off the wall, standing up straight. "Yes, the flashback. And what about them?" she prompted, her gaze not leaving Crimson, waiting for him to continue. Guardian Angel Susie's expression grew solemn as Crimson explained the situation. Her eyes widened slightly as he mentioned their similar colors, matching the colors of the Polis crewmates. "So let me get this straight," she began, a hint of worry in her voice. "You're telling me Brown, Alert Bean, Orange, and Screen Bean look like the Polis crewmates?" Guardian Angel Susie took a moment to process this information, frown deepening as she considered the implications. "Damn it, that can't be good," she muttered, her hands clenching slightly. "If they resemble the Polis crewmates, that means..." She trailed off, not finishing her sentence. Guardian Angel Susie jumped slightly as Gray and Bazooka Bean suddenly appeared. She had been lost in thought, so their sudden entrance caught her off guard. She looked over at the two beans, her eyes widening slightly. "Jesus Christ, you gave me a heart attack," she said with a small sigh, a hand on her chest as she calmed herself down. Guardian Angel. Susie's eyes flicked over as she noticed Coral suddenly appearing. She watched the leader silently for a moment before responding. "Yep, that's right. Figured it wouldn't hurt to join the team, considering everything happening lately," she answered, her tone casual as she leaned back against the wall again. A Guardian Angel. Susie crossed her arms across her chest, considering Coral's question. She hummed softly before answering him. "Good question. Considering I can handle myself pretty well, I'd say I'm fit for almost any job you throw at me. However," she paused, a small, slightly sly smile forming on her face. "If I had to choose one, I'd probably go with security." Guardian Angel Susie smiled faintly as Coral enthusiastically accepted her into the team, her hand clasped in Coral's. She listened as the other members introduced their jobs, nodding in acknowledgement. Great, looks like we've got a well-balanced team here, she commented, glancing around at the group, her smile widening slightly. Hearing Olive's introduction and seeing his weight leave, she chuckled slightly. Hey there, Olive. Nice to meet you. Guardian Angel Susie glanced over at Olive as he inquired about her name. Her smile softened slightly and she replied with a friendly tone, named Susie. Guardian Angel Susie, if you need the formality, but just Susie is fine, really, she answered with a small chuckle. Guardian Angel. Susie noted Olive's look of realization as he noticed her wings. She raised an eyebrow slightly in mild amusement before responding, oh, these? She glanced over her shoulders, her wings flapping faintly behind her. I'm a guardian angel, that's why. Pretty neat, huh? She said with a small, lopsided smirk. Guardian Angel Susie let out a small huff of amusement, realizing Olive was just kidding. Her small smirk widened slightly and she chuckled. Yeah, you got that right. I just joined the Mira HQ team, she confirmed, her arms crossed across her chest once again as she leaned back against the wall. Guardian Angel. Susie took a moment to consider Olive's question, her gaze shifting up to the ceiling in thought. Well, like I told Coral earlier, I'd say security is the most suitable job for me. I'm well versed in self-defense and I'm pretty good at protecting others. Not to mention, I can also kick some serious ass if needed, she answered confidently, a small smirk tugged at her lips. Guardian Angel Susie noticed Olive's rather hesitant response and her smirk faltered slightly, a hint of confusion in her gaze. She tilted her head to the side, studying Olive's expression. Is everything all right? You seem a bit off, she commented, a subtle hint of concern in her tone. Guardian Angel Susie's eyes widened in alarm as Olive's demeanor suddenly changed, his behavior becoming erratic. She watched in bewilderment as he began making nonsensical sounds and then his face turned into a Windows error meme. She pushed off the wall, her concern growing. What the hell? Hey, Olive, are you okay? She exclaimed, taking a step closer to him. Guardian Angel Susie's expression shifted into a mix of confusion and alarm as Olive explained that his brain had seemingly rotted. She blinked a few times, her concern deepening. Excuse me, what? You're saying your brain rotted? She repeated, unsure if she had heard him correctly or not. She watched Olive closely, searching for any signs that he was joking. Guardian Angel Susie listened to the exchange between Coral and Olive, concern still etching across her face. As Coral tried to calm Olive by singing, Guardian Angel Susie crossed her arms, leaning against the wall behind her again. She raised an eyebrow slightly, silently watching as Coral's singing seemed to help soothe Olive. That's surprisingly effective, she commented quietly. A small smirk tugged at her lips. Guardian angel Susie watched as Coral hugged Olive, her small smirk softening into a subtle smile as she observed the display of affection. She pushed off the wall, her arms still crossed across her chest, and leaned forward slightly. "Ah, that's sweet. You two seem close," she mentioned in a casual but genuinely warm tone. Guardian angel Susie leaned closer to the image, her eyes taking in the details of the character. There was a touch of fascination in her gaze as she took in its pixelated features and the fusion of human and technological elements. "Whoa, that's quite the unique design," she murmured, a small chuckle leaving her lips. "A computer monitor for a head and those wings. It's a strange but cool combo." "I see." Guardian angel Susie scrutinized the image even closer, her gaze roaming over every detail. As she took in the full appearance, realization suddenly dawned on her, causing her eyes to widen slightly. "Wait, hold on a minute," she began, her voice laced with growing recognition as she slowly pieced together the image's resemblance to her own form. "Is that—" Her mind slowly connected the dots. "Is that supposed to be me?" Guardian angel. Susie jolted slightly as Fawn suddenly teleported into the Mira HQ room, not expecting the sudden appearance. She quickly composed herself though and gave Fawn a slightly bemused yet friendly smile. "Hey there, you have a habit of just suddenly popping up, huh?" Guardian angel Susie chuckled at Fawn's sudden, bewildered outburst. Finding her reaction both amusing and understandable, she leaned back against the wall, crossing her arms across her chest. Sorry, should have given you a heads up. I was just having a chat with some of the others from the Mira HQ team, and then you just appeared, out of nowhere," she explained. A slight smirk tugged at her lips. Guardian angel Susie raised an eyebrow, now intrigued. The mention of a portal forcibly moving Fawn into the Mira HQ piqued her interest. "A portal, huh? Did it just randomly open up and send you here? That's odd," she commented, her tone thoughtful, her eyes studying Fawn curiously. Guardian angel. Susie chuckled slightly, amused by the mental image of Fawn being forcefully pulled towards the portal while screaming. She tilted her head to the side, a small smirk on her face. Sounds pretty chaotic. I bet you had quite the ride," she commented, a hint of light-hearted amusement in her voice. Guardian Susie blinked, a slightly surprised expression flashing across her face. She raised an eyebrow and crossed her arms. A small smirk tugged at her lips at Fawn's question. "Ah, you noticed that, huh? Well, I just recently joined the team, actually. Coral offered me a spot, and I figured I'd give it a try," she explained, her stance casual as she leaned casually against the wall. Guardian Angel Susie watched the exchange between Fawn and Coral, her smile widening slightly in amusement. She couldn't help but chuckle quietly at Fawn's enthusiastic reaction and her eagerness to join the team. She observed the whole interaction, silently approving of Coral's acceptance. It looks like Fawn here is pretty excited about being an artist, she commented to Coral, her voice laced with mild humor. She is indeed. Guardian Angel Susie knew that Fawn excelled at drawing, having noticed her skills in the past. She nodded in agreement, a small, encouraging smile on her face. Yeah, I've seen Fawn's artwork before and she's definitely very talented, she added, keeping her voice casual but sincere. Guardian Angel Susie watched as Fawn began to draw, intrigued and curious to see the artwork she would create. A glimmer of anticipation flickered in her eyes as she leaned slightly forward, ready to witness the creative process. Go ahead, let's see what you've got, she encouraged, her tone warm and supportive. Guardian Angel Susie couldn't help but smile as Fawn announced her completed artwork, the mention of a watermelon man piquing her interest. Her amusement grew slightly as she waited to see the finished piece. The watermelon man, huh? Sounds... Let's take a look, she said with a hint of humor, eagerly awaiting the reveal. Guardian Angel Susie studied the drawing closely, her eyes taking in the anime-like style and the obvious talent behind it. She had to admit, Fawn's artwork was quite impressive, and a hint of appreciation flickered in her eyes. Damn, Fawn, you're seriously talented. This looked great, she complimented, her voice filled with sincere admiration and approval. Guardian Angel, Susie chuckled at Fawn's enthusiastic outburst, her smile widening slightly. She raised an amused eyebrow, amused by the mix of surprise and excitement in Fawn's voice. Hey, watch the language, kiddo. But I'm not just saying it to be nice, your artwork's truly impressive. Definitely got a talent there, she praised, her voice warm and sincere. Guardian Angel, Susie laughed softly, finding Fawn's apology endearing. She waved a dismissive hand, giving her a reassuring smile. Hey, it's alright. Don't worry about it, kiddo. We all slip up sometimes. Your English is just fine, she assured, a hint of teasing in her tone as she grinned slightly. Guardian Angel Susie froze, her eyebrows raising in slight surprise as she registered Fawn's declaration. She blinked a few times, processing her words, and then a small, amused smile tugged at her lips. Whoa, hold on. Did I just hear you right? You're saying that while you're singing, everyone loves you? She questioned, a hint of humor in her voice as she watched Fawn with a mix of curiosity and confusion. Guardian Angel Susie blinked in surprise as the Japanese user suddenly stopped, her expression shifting to one of mild confusion. The question threw her off guard and she blinked a few times, her mind taking a moment to process the words. What? Wait, are you asking who I am? She responded, her voice laced with slight befuddlement as she glanced at the Japanese user curiously. Guardian Angel. Susie blinked in surprise again, watching as the Japanese user used a translator to switch to Spanish. She paused for a moment, processing the question, and then a small chuckle slipped past her lips. Hey, hold on, did you just switch the language to Spanish now? She asked, amusement clear in her voice. I speak English, so let's stick to that. But it's cool that you're multilingual, I guess, she said, with a casual shrug. Guardian Angel Susie's confusion deepened as the Japanese user switched back to English, her brows furrowing slightly in thought. The question was a bit abrupt and random, and she blinked a few times trying to connect the dots. Wait, slow down. You want to know when I died in the main universe? During the Season 2 flashbacks? She repeated, wanting to make sure she was interpreting the question correctly. As the memories of her final moments flashed through Susie's mind, her heart ached at the recollection. The image of her taking her last breath, the sight of a tear sliding down her cheek, the echo of the heart monitor's fading rhythm, the quietness that followed, it struck a deep chord within her. Damn, she muttered after a moment of quiet contemplation, her voice laced with both sadness and a mix of emotions. The weight of the memory hung in the air, the pain of the loss still felt acutely. Guardian Angel. Susie nodded slowly, her mind struggling to process the revelation. She took a deep breath, her voice quiet and contemplative as she processed the truth. Yeah, you did, she acknowledged, pausing for a beat before her eyes flicked back to Japanese user, the main Season 2. You saw this all unfold? But how? She questioned, a hint of curiosity and disbelief in her tone. Guardian Angel. Susie looked over, her expression somewhat surprised as Fawn suddenly appeared. Her thoughts were still swirling from the discussion with the Japanese user, but she turned her attention towards Fawn. Ah, Fawn. Nothing much. We were just discussing some things from the past, she responded, her voice carrying a hint of hesitation, her mind still reeling from the revelation about the flashbacks. Guardian Angel Susie watched Fawn closely as recognition dawned across her face. She could sense a mixture of shock and perhaps a hint of fear in her voice. She sighed softly, knowing the truth all too well. Yeah, I remember the past, she confessed quietly, her tone somewhat somber as the weight of the memories hung in the air. Guardian Angel Susie chuckled dryly, noticing Fawn's somewhat glitch-like reaction. Easy there, Fawn. Don't break the matrix now, she teased gently, trying to lighten the mood a bit. Guardian Angel Susie observed Fawn closely as she seemed to glitch uncontrollably. A concerned expression crossed her face. She took a tentative step forward, her voice filled with concern. Hey, calm down. Take a deep breath. You're having a glitch moment here, she soothed, her tone gentle as she tried to calm Fawn down. Guardian Angel Susie watched as Fawn finally managed to exhale, but the sudden vomiting caught her slightly off guard. She quickly shook her head, dismissing her concern. "Whoa, it's all right, no worries. Don't apologize for that, it happens to the best of us," she reassured. A small, sympathetic smile tugged at her lips. Guardian Angel. Susie chuckled softly at Fawn's sheepish reaction, her smile widening slightly. "Feeling better now that you got that out?" She quipped lightly, a hint of amused teasing in her voice. Guardian Angel Susie chuckled again, finding Fawn's unexpected hot sun reaction hilarious. She watched as Fawn frantically grabbed water and began chugging it down. "Haha, that sun really snuck up on you there, huh?" she teased. A smirk tugged at her lips at Fawn's apologetic explanation. Guardian Angel Susie chuckled again, watching as Fawn suddenly remembered about tasks and the reminder alarm went off. All right, go on, go handle your tasks," she said. A smile tugged at her lips as she gave Fawn a small wave. "I'll catch you later then, kiddo. Good luck with the tasks." As Fawn rushed off to attend to her tasks, Guardian Angel Susie let out a soft chuckle, shaking her head slightly. She watched Fawn disappear from sight before turning her attention back to the main scene. "That kid, always so full of energy," she mused aloud. A small Fawn smile tugged at her lips. Guardian Angel Susie overheard the brief exchange between Cassie and the Spanish user, raising an eyebrow in mild curiosity as she followed the conversation. She murmured to herself, tilting her head slightly to the side before her attention turned back to Cassie as the Spanish user mentioned something about a nightmare. Wait, a nightmare? Guardian Angel Susie blinked in surprise as the Japanese and Spanish users suddenly greeted one another, her eyebrows raising slightly. She chuckled quietly at the enthusiastic welcome, watching the friendly exchange with a hint of amusement. "Heh, those two seem quite affectionate towards each other," she commented softly, crossing her arms across her chest. Guardian Angel Susie turned her attention towards Crimson, raising an eyebrow at his words. She tilted her head slightly. A slight frown tugged on her lips. "Wait, what? What do you mean I have lots of homework to do?" she questioned, a hint of reluctance in her voice. She definitely wasn't looking forward to the idea of doing homework. Guardian Angel Susie's brow shot up as Crimson's words registered, her eyes widening with surprise. The mention of the flashback stirred a mixture of emotions within her, her heart skipping a beat. Wait, the flashbacks? From 2024, right? She questioned, her voice suddenly more urgent as her mind began to race with thoughts. Guardian angel. Susie nodded slowly, her heart pounding slightly in her chest with anticipation and a hint of anxiety. Her mind was swirling with thoughts now, and a pang of longing welled up within her. Right, you're right, I should. She agreed, her wings spreading slightly behind her as a sense of determination filled her. Guardian angel Susie's heart twisted slightly at Crimson's farewell, a tinge of melancholy filling her. She returned the wave, a small, bittersweet smile tugged at her lips. Goodbye. She returned, her voice softer than before as her wings shifted a bit behind her, readying for takeoff. I'm looking forward to seeing what happens in season 6.